Hey there guys, Pwnobi here, bringing you a new type of video. I kind of had an epiphany earlier, having trouble sleeping, been making a lot of teams lately, and I thought about making a little video where I basically go through the entire thought process of me making a team. So I've made a few teams already. This is going to be NU tier team number 4, and hopefully you guys are going to enjoy. Basically, where I want to start off, normally when I start off with my teams, I start off with who's going to be my Stealth Rocker, because Stealth Rock is just so important right now. It's always been important, but in NU especially, because there's no really good Rapid Spinners. When it comes to Rapid Spin, your options are basically Smeargle, who obviously has really piss poor defenses, and you're going to want to take advantage of his move pool in other ways. Spinda, which I guess gets Wish, but it has such meager base stats. Every time I fight a Rapid Spin Spinda never does anything productive. Let's see. Also, it's set up fodder for Haunter, but you have Torkoal and Armaldo, both of which take pretty decent damage from Stealth Rocks in their own right just by coming in. And since neither one of them have good recovery and fire, it's just not a good defensive typing in general. Both of them are kind of holding you down. They're kind of bad team slots. I guess Armaldo can do the job pretty well with Knockoff and Stealth Rocks. But normally I like to have Stealth Rocks on a more reliable poke since it's such an important move and Armaldo is really slow and has no recovery. But we're going to start this team off a little bit different. I want to start this team off with a Magneton. Basically, I thought to myself, I want to make a new team, and my inspiration for making this team was countering Mesprit lead. If you guys have seen my, if you saw me battle Elo on his stream, or if you had seen any of my other NU tier teams, I usually use a lead Mesprit, a Trick Scarf Mesprit with U-turns and Headbutt, Trick, and Stealth Rocks, and I think it is probably the most powerful lead right now in 5th Gen NU. I've seen a couple other Mesprits, although I haven't really seen Trick Scarf leads, but I think it's going to be popular. I think it is, in my opinion, the best lead right now, just because it gets Stealth Rocks up so reliably, and Mesprit has such high base stats, and it has U-turn for switch advantage, which in a tier with all this entry hazard abuse, it's just really powerful. So basically, I just thought I wanted to use Magneton. I think it could be a pretty strong option this gen, this tier. And I'll kind of explain why, and then I guess I'll have to think of how to build the team off of that. Magneton's going to basically be my lead, although, you know, you never want to have a completely dedicated lead, because you obviously want to switch things up depending on what your opponent has. But the reason that I think Magneton is going to be a good counter to Mesprit is because Scarf Mesprit is probably going to set up Stealth Rocks first things first, or if it U-turns, it's going to be a resisted unstab hit, and then you're going to get off a Volt Switch if they don't have a ground type on their team, and then you're going to maintain switch advantage. And your Volt Switch being stab from an offensive set is probably going to do more damage than that U-turn did to you. So it just seems like a good call. And if the Mesprit opts to stay in and go for Stealth Rocks, you can Volt Switch out to a Pursuit Trapper. And I think Pursuit Trapping is also a really powerful aspect in 5th Gen NU right now, because me personally, I like to use normal Psychic cores. I've always liked normal Psychic. They pair well together. There's a lot of little, you know, defensive core options. You have like Steel mixed with a few other different types, but there's not that many good Steel types in NU, and Magneton kind of counters them in its own way too, but I'll get into that in a sec. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that Steel with other types is okay, but the Steel options in NU aren't that great. Fire, Water, Grass is like, you know, kind of the famous main core, the quintessential core, but the problem with that is that there's no good Rapid Spinners, like I said, so having a Fire type on your team kind of gives you a big disadvantage, and Fire's not really a good defensive typing to begin with. It's not like OU where you have stuff like Heatran, Celebi core, because Heatran has that Steel typing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think normal Psychic's a really powerful core option. I also know that from my other teams playing around. I think that Haunter is a really strong poke right now, and Pursuit Trapping just counters a lot of those Psychic types and Ghost types and Driftlums and Haunters and other things. Oh my! So I think that Magneton is going to be a pretty good lead option. I'm going to go with Magnet Pull for my ability. The reason I want to go with Magnet Pull is just to counter Steel types, basically. If they basically, this is what I'm thinking. There's only a few good pokes to put up Stealth Rocks right now, in my opinion. You have Mesprit, who I think is really good. You have Torterra, who I'm not a huge Torterra fan, but he is bulky, and he does have a lot of viable move sets, so he has that unpredictability about him, and he sets up Stealth Rocks. So there's him. And then the third option that I think is pretty good is Miltank. I think Miltank is a good option to set up Stealth Rocks. So those seem to be like the big three right now for me for things that can set up Stealth Rocks. Armaldo, I guess, is your best option if you want a Rapid Spinner, but I already talked about the problems in my opinion with that. And then you can use things like Bastiodon and Probopass. Probopass has Volt Switch, so that's kind of a cool little thing. Bastiodon has his Metal Sound, and he has his sets, his sub that one move that makes it so you can't use the same move twice in a row, and all that kind of stuff. So I think Magnet Pull would give me a good counter option to them, and it's just better than his other abilities. Even Sturdy, I'm not really afraid of anything one-hit KOing me, and I will probably just switch out if that were ever a case. And also, I'm going to run a Choice Scarf variant, so there's not that many things that are going to outspeed me and hit me first anyway. Magneton with the Choice Scarf is actually really fast, even though he's only like base 70 or 80 speed. He outspeeds Tauros with a Choice Scarf. He outspeeds that new Grass Starter with a Choice Scarf, even with a Modest Nature. So going into the actual stats, I'm going to go with Modest just for that specific sole reason, because it outspeeds stuff like Tauros, even with Modest. And 252 special attack, obviously, and 252 speed, just so it can outspeed big threats. What's the point of having a Choice Scarf with no speed? And 4 HP. I don't know if 4 defense or special defense would be better. Maybe defense just to take Mesprit U-turns or Zen Headbutts better, even though they're both resisted. But I'm just going to go with HP for now. As for the moves, Volt Switch is kind of the bread and butter of this set. I kind of want to be able to take advantage of all the entry hazards that are going to be in NU, and forcing switches and keeping pressure on the opponent with Volt Switch I think is going to be a really powerful mechanic. And since Magneton has such limited move pool, I guess I'll go with Thunderbolt. That extra power can really help. And Flash Cannon just because it gives dual stab, good against rock types and ice types, I guess, even though those are pretty horrible types in general, but I guess just to hit those neutral things. And as for the last move, I'm obviously going to go with Hidden Power just to try to round out the set, but the question is, what Hidden Power do I want to go with? And I could go with Hidden Power Fire, which is a pretty common thing from 4th gen. Fire and Ice are the most powerful hidden powers in overused tiers for obvious reasons, with things like Ferrothorn and Dragonite. But in lower tiers, you have to really think about it, because you don't want to just pick Fire and Ice just because, oh, you use them in OU, so they must be the best everywhere. That's really not the case. Hidden Power Fire would give me an answer for Torterra, trying to come in on that ground, electric immunity. It would give me an answer for Steel types. Since I do have that Magnet Pull, I obviously need something to hit those Steel types. But hitting them with ×2 super effective damage, considering most Steel types are specially defensive sets, and it would be unstab. And I'm Scarf, not Specs. I'm just not sure if it's going to get the job done. And Hidden Power Ice would not hit Steel types at all. It would give me a ×4 effective answer to Torterra. It would let me deal with things like Altaria, although I don't see too much Altaria. And I'm pretty confident that Thunderbolt is going to be a powerful option against Altaria anyway, unless it's like a Fire Blast set. But I think I'm going to go with Hidden Power Ground. Hidden Power Ground seems weird, but I've actually been testing it on a different team with my Haunter, And the reason I think Hidden Power Ground is so good, especially right now, is it can hit those steel types like Bastiodon and Probopass for ×4 super effective damage, which will make it so you can win those trades when they're trying to hit you back with Earth Powers or Power Gems or Volt Switches or whatever the heck they're going to go for. And also, Poison type Pokemon are really, really staple right now. You're going to see a Scolipede or a Garbodor or a Skuntank on just about every team. And the reason for that is that Toxic Spikes really, really work in NU right now because of no Rapid Spinner. And it is a really big threat to things like Hypno, Alomomola, Meganium, Miltank, Audino. It doesn't matter. The point is Toxic Spikes counters, all these walls. So you need to have a Poison type on your team to not make yourself vulnerable to that. So Hidden Power Ground will deal with those Poison types pretty well too. Also, it would give me a good answer for fire types, I guess. Maybe Specially Defensive Leafeon. It also would work well against Specially Defensive Ampharos. So, yeah, I think it's going to kind of be a winner right there. Now, to figure out where my team's going to go from here, there's a couple things I need. I need a Pursuiter, because the whole point of having this Magneton in my mind when I decided to make this team was so I could try to pair it with Pursuit Trapping because of the Volt Switch. So I think that's something I need to think about. But more importantly, a Pursuiter is obviously going to be an offensive poke. I need to think about my defensive core before I know what poke I can use. So to start off, I want to use a Poison type. Now, I could use Skuntank, which is both a Poison type and a Pursuit Trapper, but I have Skuntank on one of my other teams that I've already built. I kind of don't want to use Skuntank again. Also, the bad thing about Skuntank is that I want to have Spikes on this team to take advantage of Volt Switch, to take advantage of all this Switch initiative and all the switches that I'm going to be forcing people to hopefully make. So I think I'm just going to go with Garbodor. Garbodor has kind of been a little bit of a staple for me. I've been using that lead Mesprit along with Garbodor and Specially Defensive Licky. Those three have kind of been my little core team because Poison kind of it makes a third piece to that normal Psychic core because it resists the fighting type weakness of normal, and then Psychic resists the weakness of Poison, and it's not so clear cut like Fire, Water, Grass, but I think it works out pretty well. And yeah, I don't know, Garbodor is just really won over my heart, so to speak. So I'm gonna go with Garbodor. Aftermath is illegal right now, so I'm gonna have to go with Stench at Black Sludge just for that recovery. And I'm going to use the same set that I use on all of them. Spikes, Toxic Spikes, Clear Smog, just to make sure people can't set up on you. Also, you can't be taunted to stop Clear Smog, so that's kind of cool. And Gunk Shot. Gunk Shot's a really high base power move. Not that many things resist poison, so it can break the subs off a lot of things, and overall it's pretty good. So now the question is, do I want this to be a physically defensive Garbodor or a specially defensive Garbodor? Because honestly, I feel like you can go both ways. Physical gives you the fighting resistance, but special, depending on what your other pokes are, kind of can couple well. So basically my question is, who am I going to run Stealth Rocks on, I guess is what I need to figure out. Because since I'm not using Mesprit, I'm not going to be running it on an offensive poke, so I need to find a wall or some sort of defensive support poke that can run Stealth Rocks. So I could use like an Armaldo Rapid Spin thing, but as I said, it's not my style. So immediately what comes to mind, since I already mentioned a Poison type, is using Miltank. I don't have Miltank on any of my 5th gen teams right now, so I'm kind of excited at the prospect of using it. I used it a lot in 4th gen UU and NU, for those of you that follow those videos and stuff. And I just think that Miltank's going to be a strong option. It gives me thick fat, which can make up for the the fire weakness of Magneton. It can give me an ice resist, which I guess is cool. I've actually ran into a few Regices that surprisingly packed a punch, so I guess that ice weakness is not totally in vain. And I don't know, I could switch to Scrappy if I find my team to be Haunter weak, since it already deals with Garbodor pretty well. And I don't know. If I find I have a big ghost weakness or something, then I can switch it to Scrappy. But right now I'm going to go with Thick Fat. Leftovers is the obvious item of choice. And I always run physically defensive Miltank. Miltank just has a much higher defensive stat. And I just think it's much better than not physically defensive Miltank. So Impish, 2v2 HP, 252 defense, and 4 speed. I think Miltank has like 100 base speed, so that 4 speed might actually do something for me. And my EV sets seem pretty elementary right now. Admittedly, I like to use 252, 252, 4 sets on a lot of pokes. Usually my complex EV sets come in on offensive pokes, dealing with their speed stat when I realize what big threats I need to outspeed and what things I don't. And maybe once I do a few damage calcs and realize what moves a couple extra EVs can help me take from certain pokes. But starting off, I like to keep things pretty simple and move from there. And I think it actually works pretty well. So I'm not that worried about it. So for my moves, Stealth Rock is the whole reason that we put this guy on the team. And I'm obviously going to want Milk Drink so I can have my recovery. Seismic Toss. I could go Body Slam, but since this team has Toxic Spikes, and I'm sure I'll find a way to incorporate status on some other poke, I really don't want a lot of the big threats to be paralyzed. And Seismic Toss just does more reliable damage, and it also hurts really bad with entry hazards. So for the last move, I'm going to go with Heal Bell, just because that's the set that I've used Heal Bell Miltank a lot in the past, especially in 4th Gen UU, and it just gets Heal Bell out of the way now. I know I need Heal Bell on one of my pokes, so it might as well be this one, unless I wanted to give Miltank Toxic and then give Heal Bell to something else. But now I'm thinking I want to have a Psychic on this team to kind of like finish off that Poison, Normal, Psychic, little bit of a core. I need a Psychic type, and I already have a physically defensive Miltank, so I think I'm going to go specially defensive here. The first thing that comes to mind is Hypno, obviously. I haven't used Hypno in a team in a long time, so I'm tempted to go with that. But and also a good thing about Hypno is it gives me Insomnia to counter things like Jump Bluff and other sleep users. I don't know. The thing about Hypno, though, is that Hypno's primary damage source is Seismic Toss. It doesn't have that impressive of a special attack stat, and you can't have Baton Pass and Wish on the same set, and I don't think having Hypno is actually going to work out too well on this team. It would give me access to Wish, and I really like having a Wish user with Garbodor. I think it's actually kind of mandatory to have a Wish user with Garbodor, and also with the many resistances of Steel types, Wish passing would be really good. So I need to think of a Wish. I could use Gardevoir. Gardevoir works pretty well, but Gardevoir, with the new Wish mechanics, I like to have really high HP Wish users. So it kind of leaves me with like Licky Licky and Alomomola, which are the two that I've been using a lot in the past. But with Licky Licky, I already have a Miltank, so that's kind of out of the question. And I already have a fighting weakness of Magneton. So, but I do have the fighting resistance with Garbodor. I think I'm going to put an Alomomola on this team. That kind of, I mean, I know I need a Psychic. I know I need a Psychic type. I'm kind of jumping around. But I do need Wish. And this would give me, if I do this, Alomomola is obviously physically defensive, so I can make this be like, what is it, Careful? Or no, Careful, 2v2, HP, 2v2, Special Defense, and 4 Attack. That would work. And then I can go Alomomola, Hydration, since Regenerator is not legal right now, and Leftovers, Wish, Protect, Toxic, Aqua Jet. This is the set that I use for Alomomola on pretty much any Alomomola I've ever run. I think I'm going to go with Musharna here. The reason I'm going to go with Musharna is if you saw my battle with Elo on his live stream, you know I do like to use Musharna. Also, I've replaced my Cresselia and RU with a Musharna, and through playtesting, I really, really like Musharna. I think Musharna is a really strong poke option. There's basically two sets that I like to run for Musharna. There's the Reflect set, and then there's the Calm Mind set. And for this team, I think I'm going to go with Calm Mind, even though I already have physical walls, so that means that this is going to have to be a special wall. Synchronize will help me against statuses. Yeah, normally when I run Calm Mind Musharna, I run max HP, max defense with Calm Mind, just so it becomes bulky on both ends of the spectrum. But based on the entry hazards and the volt switching and the pursuit trapping, as long as I make sure I have a hard hitter in my last slot, this can be more of a late game sweeping Musharna. Or kind of just sort of sit there, and if you happen to get some Calm Minds up, you can do work, sort of a thing. Calm, 2 HP, 2 special defense, 4 defense, and yeah, I really like this because my team has nobody that sets up on it, and my Pursuiter is not going to be someone that sets up. So realistically, this last poke, has to set up. So my options are kind of limited to like Calm Mind Garbodor and Calm Mind Musharna. And they both sort of do the same things, but Musharna is just bulkier and Garbodor is faster. And I don't really care about the faster because I already have a fast defensive poke with Miltank. I already have priority. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not that worried about it. So, my set's going to be like the same set that I normally use, which is Calm Mind, Stored Power. Stored Power has 20 base power and gets 20 more power for each like stat boost you get. So, with Calm Mind, you're getting 2 stat boosts per use, which increases its base power by 40 per use. So, yeah, even after just 2 Calm Minds, it's more powerful than Psychic. And Psychic, coming from a Musharna before 2 Calm Minds, wouldn't do jack diddly balls anyway. So obviously I'm going to want Moonlight. There's no real weather in NU, so Moonlight's pretty reliable for recovery. And for the last thing, I'm going to go with Hidden Power, and this might surprise you, but I'm going to go with Hidden Power Bug. Normally you see Hidden Power Fighting on Psychic types, but Hidden Power Bug gives me an answer to other Psychic types. Like Garbodor, Fellow Musharna, Slaking, which is also really prevalent. It gives me super effective damage against things like Meganium and other grass types. And I think Hidden Power Bug, and it also gives me super effective damage against dark types that try to pursuit trap me, like Absol, and not so much Skuntank, but what can you do? It's not like I'm going to run 2 Hidden Power Grounds. And yeah, I think Hidden Power Bug is a really, really powerful option. And that pretty much means that I just need one last poke. So pretty much the question is who learns Pursuit in 5th Gen NU? And I kind of think I already know who I want to go with just because I've been thinking of using him before this. But I could go with Absol. And if I did go with Absol, I could go with a stat boosting Absol, and that would give me space to go back to like a especially defensive wall kind of Garbodor. But the thing about Absol is he's really frail, and I don't like having setup moves and then having something with low base power that's not priority, even though it gets priority with Sucker Punch. But then it's like this, you can't like Night Slash. And Night Slash with Absol with Super Lucky or whatever it's called seems staple. I think I'm going to go with, believe it or not, Slaking. I've been thinking of using Slaking, and I didn't actually really think about it as much immediately with this team because Magneton's already weak to fighting, and so is Miltank. But I do have 2 fighting resists with Garbodor and Musharna, and even though Alomomola is not really a fighting resist, it can take fighting hits very, very well as long as they're not boosted. It can take any physical hit. It's kind of a monster. And Slaking's not going to take that many hits anyway, and I think I'm going to go Slaking. Obviously, he has Truant, and I'm going to give him a Choice Band. The reason I want to give him a Choice Band is I need those Pursuits to fuck people's day up. Pursuit Choice Band on a Mesprit trying to U-turn out or switch out is just going to destrolish it. He has like 160 base attack or something monstrous. So Pursuit, Earthquake to deal with those steel types that are going to come in to resist the normal attack. And speaking of the normal attack, when it comes to Slaking, you have a few options. You can go with Double Edge. I think he gets Double Edge, but I don't want recoil, especially on such a... He has such great base stats. I wouldn't want to take the recoil. And the next thing is I could go with Return, which Return and Frustration seem like the most obvious, and to be honest, they probably are the best. But I'm really lazy. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you'll notice you never see me use Return ever. And that is because I'm too freaking lazy to keep their happiness stat at the level to keep Return at max power. So I'm going to go with Retaliate, I believe it's called this generation. Retaliate, I know that Slaking learns because I did look him up earlier. And it does like 140 base... It has like 140 base power when attacking after a poke is fainted. So I'll just bring him in after any of my pokes faint and just go for that Retaliate or Pursuit. And it's just going to be an amazing revenge killer. And for my last move, I have a few options, but I'm going to go with Hammer Arm. Hammer Arm is just going to deal with all these really powerful normal types. And I don't have a single fighting move unless you count Seismitoss. And since a lot of normal types have Heal Bell, example, Miltank, Licky, Aldino, I think Hammer Arm is just going to be a really strong option. It also gives me an answer for, a better answer for, well, another answer, I should say, for Regirock. Even though it's like, Regirock has like a gajillion defense, so it wouldn't matter that much. But yeah, I think this is going to be pretty good. I'm going to go Adamant. He has 100 base speed, I know that much. So I don't really need additional... I don't really need the speed investment. I want to be able to do crazy damage with Pursuits. And that's basically what he's here for. So that looks like a pretty rounded out team to me. I'm going to playtest this team and see how it does. And it just seems pretty solid. I mean, some of my other NU tier teams are arguably a little stronger. I think Mesprit is still the best lead. So leading with Magneton sort of is like an anti-meta play, even though there's no real meta for 5th gen NU. I keep saying 4th. But I think this team's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. I think Hidden Power Ground and Hidden Power Bug are really strong and are going to catch people off guard. I think Alomomola is going to annoy the crap out of people. Miltank will probably just do its job. Hopefully this tier isn't too anti-Miltank with special attackers. And there's not that many good fighting types. There's like Sock, and that's about it. There's like the other one, Nageki, Thrall, whatever his name is. I actually have a cool set in mind for him. I might make a team with him. But yeah, I think this is going to be pretty good. I want to really test this Volt Switch into Pursuit combo that I think might work out really well. Garbodor I've played with a lot already, so I know how he is. And I've played with Alomomola as well. So this Musharna that I've played with, but I haven't really played with a specially defensive variant. So it'll be cool to see how this goes. Yeah, I think that's going to be it. So here is basically the overview of one of my 5th generation NU tier teams. And I'll try to get a battle with this team to pair this video with and post them up. So have a good day, guys. And I'm sorry if this video was a little long for your liking. I'm actually really surprised how short this was. It's probably because I kind of stole my own sets with this Garbodor and Musharna and Alomomola, which I've used on other teams, and I'm using another normal psychic poison core. So that's probably why this team didn't take quite as long to build as some of my other ones. But anyways, hope you guys enjoy. That's pretty much it for this video. So yeah, peace.